Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Good. And in the back, can you hear me okay? Perfect. I'm Dia Barry Mitchell, Director of Marketing and Programming for Dallas Historical Society. Just wanted to welcome each of you and thank you for joining us. This is our Evening With program. So this series is devoted to sparking thoughtful conversations with authors and experts in chosen topics. So before we begin our program, I want to remind everyone to follow us on social media platforms. Just type in and search Dallas Historical Society, and you'll find us. And to join us for our program next week, March 16th, in collaboration with Deep Vellum Books. It's going to be really exciting. It's a program all about non-mainstream media publications from yesterday to present that were responsible for sharing news to their respective communities. Have You Heard the News promises to be an excellent discussion with such incredible speakers. So don't forget to register for that one. Also, a bit of housekeeping reminders. Just don't forget we need for your mobile devices to be on silent, and make sure to use the hashtag DHS Evening With. If you're going to be capturing any moments and sharing those on social media, we want to be able to find them so we can reshare those. So tonight, I'm so excited to begin Women's History Month with not only some pretty phenomenal female leaders here in Dallas, but they've all agreed to also teach us a little bit of history. So that's exciting, right? So they're going to teach us about some iconic women and the roles that they played in shaping Dallas. So tonight's program is moderated by a very inspiring woman herself. I'm proud to call my friend Miss Christine Allison. Christine is the editor-in-chief and CEO of D Magazine Partners, among other responsibilities. So she began at D Magazine as a promotions manager back in the 70s, and then fast forward 13 books, a plethora of work experience, and 4 children later with D Mag founder Wick Allison. She's now at the helms of this major media publication and also advocating for the inclusion of stories that make up our beautiful city. But before Christine joins us on stage, I'd love to introduce you to our guest speakers for the evening that we're so excited about. So first, we'll hear from Sheryl Adkins-Green. You want to wave hello, Sheryl? So Sheryl is, she's Mary Kay's Chief Marketing Officer and leads the global brand marketing strategy, advertising, digital marketing, social media, consumer insights channels. So, not a whole lot, apparently. That keeps Mary Kay's brand and business opportunities relevant and also competitive around the world. So prior to Mary Kay, Sheryl held executive positions with Alberto Culver, Cadbury Schweppes, Citigroup, and also Kraft Foods. She's a Forbes Top 50 CMO influencer who received the 2021 Top 100 Women in Marketing Award by Brand Innovators, the CMO Leadership Award in 2020, and in 2019, Sheryl was named to Black Enterprise's 2019 Most Powerful Women in Corporate America list. So, to round things off, she also serves on the Texas Christian University Board of Trustees, in addition to being a board member of the Dallas Museum of Art and of the AT&T Performing Arts Center. Sheryl, we are thrilled to have you join us and speak to us more about the dynamic woman we knew as Mary Kay. Last and certainly not least, we have the fabulous Miss Samantha Dodd. Samantha is wonderful. She's a curator for the Archives of Women of the Southwest at the DeGolyer Library. So that's my alma mater, SMU, pony up. Raise your hand if you've actually visited the library there, DeGolyer. Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? So you may see Samantha out there. Her very important work entails collecting, appraising, processing, and making accessible archival collections in women's history to document the historical experiences of women in the Southwest. So Samantha is an awarded and certified archivist with a rich background and most recently, special collections archivist of the University of Texas at Arlington, where she'd been working since 2016. And then before that, we were lucky enough to have her here at DHS, which some of you may remember her from. From 2011, I think, to 2015, she was the archivist here. So now so that we can set the expectations of what you guys can look forward to. We're going to hear from Sheryl first, and then after her presentation, Samantha will come to the stage for her part, and then at that conclusion, both Sheryl and Christine will join us on stage, and we'll begin the discussion and the Q&A. So thank you again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Thank you and good evening. It's a pleasure to be here, and even a greater honor to share with you the rich life and legacy of Mary Kay Ash, the founder of Mary Kay, Inc. It is a one-of-a-kind success story. I often tell people that she succeeded when pretty much everything was working against her and working against what she had a vision of building. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. She has inspired millions of women and men because she persevered. And her story is really one of determination, of resilience, and it's also an inspiring story because it was really driven by her love of people and her burning desire to want to help as many people as possible have better lives. And she felt that would be possible by helping women do and be their best, knowing that they in turn would help everyone in their family and their circle of friends also do and be their best. So before I get into her story, I wanted to start with this slide. A lot of times people say, oh yeah, Mary Kay, I remember my grandmother might have sold that, or my aunt. But we love to think of Mary Kay Ash and celebrate her as a true trailblazer because she was so far ahead of her time, because she was a risk taker. She was a woman who was not afraid to carve new trails, new practices, new principles in a business world that had been dominated by men. We also love the fact that her vision for this business is so timeless. It was on time in 1963 when she started it. And when we look at her principles today, when we look at, for example, the power of word of mouth and social media, well, she knew that. She knew that back in 1963. And in fact, inside the company, we joke that she invented Facebook because she told everyone, when you see a face, book it. Book it for a party or a class. And so she really did understand the power of social networking, but in a way that was of benefit and value to others. And that really did form the foundation of her business model. And even today, as the Chief Marketing Officer, in contrast to the days where I created commercials for Fruity Pebbles or Stovetop Stuffing, my job right now is really to help every independent beauty consultant be the best Mary Kay brand that she can be. So let's talk a little bit, and I wanted to start with one of Mary Kay Ash's quotes. And here again, if she was with us today, she passed in 2001. If she was on social media today, she would be killing it because she always knew the right thing to say at the right time. And I wanted to start with this: behind every achievement, large or small, lies a plan. And it really was a business plan that set the course for what would become a global beauty brand that is loved and known around the world. I have to back up a little bit and tell you how the plan came to be. Now, Mary Kay Ash became a single mom around 1945 when she found that she needed to divorce her husband. And as a single mother of 3 children, she wanted to find a way to be available for them, but at the same time support her family. And so it turned out to be direct sales and selling books initially was how she was able to balance her priorities. And she always talked about life's priorities being faith, family, and career. So she went into direct sales. It gave her the flexibility to be there for her children. She tells a funny story, though, because, again, at the time, direct selling would be referred to as a party plan. You would get people together and they would see the books or the housewares and decide what they wanted to try before they buy. And she said one time her neighbor asked her son, like, "Where's your mother?" And he said, "Well, she goes out to parties every night." Well, needless to say, that was not the image she wanted to project. But fast forward, her son Richard actually became her business partner, so he was paying attention. But for Mary Kay, she was very successful as a salesperson, largely in part because she really did understand and care about people. One of her favorite quotes that I embrace is, "Picture an invisible sign around each person's neck that says, 'Make me feel important.'" She had a gift for really understanding people and making them feel special. So what would happen professionally, she would do a great job, such a great job that she would even be asked to train the new gentlemen coming into the company. And sure enough, as soon as she trained them up, they promoted the guy and left her where she was. And, you know, back in the 40s, 50s, you know, this was not unusual, so it happens a few times. But there came a point where she said, "Enough is enough, I'm done." And said, I'm leaving. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm not going to continue to be in a situation where I'm producing the best results, but not getting the recognition, the compensation that I deserve and that I've earned. So in the course of thinking about what she might do next, and at this point she's around 45 years old, she sat at her kitchen table with a good classic yellow notepad and started writing. She started writing what she thought would be a better business model for direct sales. And she just kept writing, and she thought about the training, the incentives, how people were compensated, how people worked together. And when she got kind of to the end of that yellow notepad, she realized she had written a business plan. What she hadn't, though, done was thought about, well, what, if this is a business, what would be sold? And she wanted this business, and I neglected to say, she really wanted a business that would reward and recognize women and basically give them that unlimited opportunity that she did not have in a corporate job. So she thought about what would be good for women to sell, easy to sell, and she landed on skincare. She picked a skincare regimen that she liked, and she knew that if women found a skincare product they liked, they would be loyal, and it would be easy to develop a loyal customer following with this product. So also during this time, she met someone very special, and they married, and this is in July of 1963. And the plan was for her to start this business with her husband as her business partner, and Mary Kay would be in charge of marketing and sales. Sadly, in August of 1963, her husband died of a massive heart attack right at the kitchen table. As you might imagine, everyone, she had young adult children, friends, a banker or a lawyer, I'm sure. Everyone said, "Mary Kay, we're so sorry for your loss. You need to take some time. You need to grieve. Surely you're not going to go ahead with this business plan, at least not right now." She thought about it. She prayed on it. She talked to her children and felt that it was something she had to do. And her children said, "Mom, you have always done what you set out to do, and we'll do anything and everything we can to support you." So on September 13th, 1963, Mary Kay Ash launched Mary Kay Cosmetics. She did it with her life savings of $5,000. Again, think about it. There wasn't some big 501k or stock options. She really took her life savings and, with the help of her young adult children, started Mary Kay Cosmetics. This is a picture of her first storefront, which was located downtown. What you don't see is that the storefront actually had wigs in the window. And the reason why she had wigs and actually sold some wigs initially is she wanted to attract women walking around maybe at lunchtime, And at the time, wigs were very popular, and she needed something kind of eye-catching to get them to come in. She didn't really plan to ever retail the products, but she needed to get women to come in so that she could talk to them about a very unique direct selling opportunity. And she started the business with 9 of her best girlfriends. Fast forward, I wanted to share a picture of our brand new Richard R. Rogers Manufacturing and Research and Development Center located in Louisville. The global headquarters are located right off the tollway in Addison. And today, this business that started out as a little storefront with wigs now helps millions of independent beauty consultants successfully run their Mary Kay businesses in nearly 35 countries around the world. Thinking like a woman can be a tremendous asset. And if I think about her secret to success is that she fully embraced and was fully confident in the fact that, yes, as a woman, she thought differently and thought better about how things could be. She thought better about the role of culture in a company. She thought very differently about how incentives and rewards and recognition. And she really embraced the fact that she did think about relationships and how to be successful very differently than men at the time. And it really is that formula for success that has sustained the business for nearly 60 years. And actually, as I mentioned before, when we think about relevance, when we think about how we treat people, how do you really build loyalty with employees? How do you make work meaningful? She founded this company and based it on her values around the golden rule, making people feel important, values around integrity. So Mary Kay is a company that was built by a woman for women. Opportunity is what we create, beauty is what we embrace, and hope is what we give back. And one of the things that Mary Kay wanted to do was to make sure that, again, this business opportunity was a vehicle to help make the world a better place. She often talked about P&L standing for people and love, not just profit and loss. So as I mentioned, we actually are approaching our 60th anniversary in 2023. Expect to see a lot of pink Cadillacs, so I'm warning everyone right now. But the mission to be captured in 3 words is really about helping women feel confident, beautiful, and connected, and then passing that on to really encourage and inspire others. So I'm excited to be in this role, to be a part of an amazing story that, again, is encouraging women around the world, and in so doing, making sure that they're making a positive difference for others. So I look forward to the conversation tonight, and with that, I'd like to welcome up Samantha. Thank you.
Well, good evening. I'm always excited to come back where I got my start here in the archives, and I'm especially excited to be here for Women's History Month. So as the curator of the Archives of Women of the Southwest, I oversee over 200 different collections of women from the late 19th century throughout the 21st century, and it is very evident from these women that these women significantly shaped culture, arts, business, social issues, law, and politics in Texas and the region of the Southwest. Tonight I'll be highlighting a few different ladies, but this is by no means all of them or even a representative sample of the women who have shaped Dallas. But these example entrepreneurs have legacies that can be seen and felt across everything from banking and fashion to real estate and transportation. Arguably the first millionaire-billionaire by today's estimates, Sarah Horton Cockrell's ventures in business between 1858 and 1892 contributed in some of the most important ways to the economic development of Dallas at a time when women rarely worked outside the home or ever aspired to have a career. She was born in Virginia on January 13th, 1819, and in 1844, when she was 25 years old and still unmarried, she moved with her family, her 6 brothers and sisters, to Texas and settled in the land outside of Oak Cliff. She married Alexander Cockrell on September 9th, 1847, Alex went into the freighting business while Sarah stayed home with their children. But in 1852, Alex bought the remainder of John Neely Bryan's head rights, which was Dallas at the time, as well as his ferry license to operate a ferry across the Trinity River. And a year later, the couple moved into Dallas with their children and began a husband and wife business partnership, where Alex ran the ferry, the toll bridge, a brick-making and construction business, and a sawmill. But he could not read or write, so Sarah kept his books, wrote all of the correspondence, and acted as his general advisor. But tragedy hit home on April 3, 1858, when 37-year-old Alex was shot and killed over a debt by the city marshal, Andrew Moore. Sarah was left widowed with her 4 children, the oldest of whom was only 8 years old. But instead of returning home and shutting down, she stepped up, collected the debt the marshal owed Alex, and took charge of all of her family's interests. She continued to endure hardship and struggle, though, when only 4 months later, in August of 1858, the bridge over the Trinity River collapsed. But once again, she jumped into action, renewed the ferry license, and put the ferry back into place. And a year later, she presented a charter to the Texas legislature to build a new bridge over the Trinity. And a year later, they approved her charter to build the iron suspension bridge in Dallas. But it was not until 1870 that she could get enough support and investors for the Dallas Bridge Company, which she owned the majority of shares. But in accordance with social convention, she never served on the board and left that formal membership to her son, Frank, and her son-in-law, Mitchell. But finally, in 1872, the bridge opened and linked Dallas with all major roads south and west. Building this bridge has been called Sarah Cockrell's most significant contribution to the economic life in Dallas, and she continued to operate the bridge until the county took it over in 1882, but she didn't stop there. Her next notable contribution to Dallas was the hotelier business. She opened the St. Nicholas in 1859, the Dallas Hotel in 1860 after the St. Nicholas burned down, and then she opened the St. Charles after the Civil War. Frontier hotels did more than provide meals and lodging. A hotel in frontier time was a major social center for a town. Cotillions, formal dinners, balls. They also served as meeting spots for traveling businessmen, speculators looking for investment opportunities. So Sarah opened those doors for Dallas. Her third contribution and major business venture was in flour milling. In 1872, she purchased a third interest share in the Todd Mills Company and purchased the remaining stock 2 years later and formed the S.H. Cockrell and Company with her son and dramatically expanded the milling business in Dallas. Over the course of her life, Sarah continued adding to the land holdings Alex left her. In 1884, her addition opened up a new residential subdivision, what is now downtown Dallas. And throughout the 1880s, she was buying, selling, leasing, and renting property all over Dallas. And by 1892, she owned a quarter of downtown Dallas. What Sarah did for Dallas was tremendous growth. Every new business deal meant new additional services for residents and visitors, incentives for investors and farmers. And despite her impressive business career, for Sarah, her family always came first. She never engaged in political matters, but instead focused on community and generosity. As a historical figure, a frontier woman, a businesswoman, a widow, a mother, her legacy in Dallas is profound. Carrie Marcus Neiman was one of 3 founders of the Neiman Marcus store that opened in Dallas in 1907. She was born in German Jewish immigrants in Louisville, Kentucky in 1883. The Marcus family then moved to Hillsborough, Texas in 1895. Carrie soon followed her older siblings to Dallas to become the saleswoman in a department store, and then she met Al Neiman and they married in 1905. So along with Al and her brother Herbert, Carrie Marcus and them founded the department store in Dallas in 1907. Dallas at the time was an unlikely place for such plans for a store that was going to sell high-end, ready-to-wear clothing. It was a sleepy, unsophisticated town of about 84,000 people at the time. In addition, ready-to-wear clothing was hardly a business at the time. Women of means had their clothes custom-made in either New York or Paris. But Carrie recognized the importance of ready-to-wear clothing when it was up and coming, and she saw this market would eventually replace custom-made clothes. At the time, there was no fine garment industry, and the few manufacturers there were did not have an understanding of what American women wanted or how to do their sizing, but Carrie did. She also made sure that Neiman Marcus was the first retail store to have weekly fashion shows so that customers could keep current with the latest international styles and trends. Though she did not have children of her own, she had a very tight-knit Jewish family that was extremely important to her. And when she was not with them and when she was not in Dallas, she was traveling to New York and Europe on buying trips for Neiman Marcus. She participated in all of Neiman Marcus's store's decisions and served as a store's chief buyer. Neiman Marcus has helped establish Dallas's global reputation as a fashion industry and lured wealthy visitors to the city. Neiman Marcus is now a corporate anchor of the downtown Dallas area. Furthermore, Carrie hired, mentored, and opened the door for many women to follow her into the workforce. And one such woman was Bert DeWinter, who also helped shape Dallas through fashion at Neiman Marcus. Bert DeWinter was born August 20th, 1908 in New York City. Her parents, a Belgian father and French mother, owned one of the city's most famous restaurants, the Maison de Winter. She went to school in France and received training under Madame Nicole of New York and began her career in fashion as a interior decorator at Lord & Taylor. It was in the 1940s that she moved to Dallas, where she worked as the chief buyer and resident fashion expert for the millinery boutique at Neiman Marcus. And it was at Neiman's that she created the eclectic boutique. And according to Edward Marcus, chairman of the board, she was a recognized authority on fashion. But where she really shined was in her home and her ability to host lavish gatherings and social events. For Bert, her reach and renown came from her networking and appearances within the community. And according to her reputation, her dinner party invitations could make or break someone's political career. Now, you may not know the name Vera Lucille, but I know you've seen the name Ebby Halliday all over Dallas. Ebby Halliday was an American realtor and businesswoman who founded Ebby Halliday Realtors and is recognized as the first woman of real estate. But she was born Vera in Leslie, Arkansas, and graduated from high school in Abilene, Kansas in 1929. And she graduated into the Great Depression, but needing to work to support her family, she put off her dreams of going to college. Instead, she got a job selling women's hats for $10 a week at the Jones store in Kansas City. And in less than a year, she was the top saleswoman. And in 1938, she was asked to take over the millinery department at Dallas's W.A. Green store. She adopted the business name of Ebby and soon had her own Dallas boutique called Ebby's Hats. A husband of one of her customers said, "If you can sell these crazy hats to my wife, maybe you can sell my crazy houses." He had just started a new housing development with these concrete model homes. At the time, there were very few women in real estate, but Ebby is excited about the challenge, so she sold her hat business to her designer and set about selling these properties. Because of her eye for style and ability to turn these concrete models into homes through staging, she was able to sell all 52 properties within the development within a year. She founded her real estate company in 1945 and went to build one of the largest independently owned residential real estate firms in Texas and one of the largest in the United States. And as with the other ladies I've mentioned, she cultivated the careers of hundreds of other women, encouraging them to go back to school, offering them advancement opportunities, as well as speaking engagements. Ebby was a widely known businesswoman and also a philanthropist. Thanksgiving Square Foundation, Dallas Community College, Dallas Civic Opera, and the Dallas Historical Society are just a few of the local organizations that were influenced by her activities. She also served on a national level with the Defense Advisory Committee for Women in the Services and the Small Business Administration. Perhaps a lesser-known figure, but important nonetheless, Eloise Brooks Cullum was a Dallas businesswoman and civic leader whose career included accounting, building a shopping center, running and expanding nonprofit agencies and service organizations. She was born July 30th, 1922, the youngest child of Ashley Wilson, a member of Pioneer Dallas family. She graduated from Hockaday and SMU with a degree in English. After she joined her brothers in the family business, A.W. Cullum and Company Wholesale Grocers, and became secretary-treasurer for the Associated Tom Thumb Supermarket Group. In 1959, she launched her own Sally B Sweet Shops in Dallas, an ice cream parlor and sandwich shop that was affiliated with Tom Thumb stores. She became the executive director of the Dallas Metropolitan YWCA in 1976 and oversaw a capital fund drive to build the new Ross Avenue facility. Oil heiress and luxury hotelier, author, and philanthropist Carolyn Rose Hunt played a pivotal and literal role in the building of Dallas. She was born in El Dorado, Arkansas on January 8, 1923 to Haroldson Lafayette and Lyda Bunker Hunt. Known as a savvy businesswoman, Miss Hunt founded Rosewood Hotels and Resorts, a worldwide chain of exclusive hotels and resort properties in the 1980s. And it all began when she purchased an old Dallas mansion that was about to be torn down and built the Rosewood Mansion on Turtle Creek. Her next investment, the Crescent's 1.3 million square feet of office, retail, and hotel space, she helped pioneer mixed-use development and launched Dallas's Uptown District, which is now one of the most successful commercial and residential districts in the country. She went on to own and manage 22 luxury hotels around the world, as well as a line of luxury bathing and skin products. In 1986, she was named the wealthiest woman in the country. And though she was a successful businesswoman, she had another secret passion in life. And at the age of 77, she finally published her first novel, Primrose Past, the Journal of Young Lady Primrose, in 2000. But she had another love that was pumpkins and cooking, and she published the Complete Pumpkin Eater Cookbook and even chartered her own helicopter company called Pumpkin Air. She was a longtime supporter of many organizations in Dallas, including United Way, Junior League, Museum of Women and Arts, Women's Club, as well as other nonprofits. She served as a trustee for the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., and despite being one of the richest women in the world, she preferred to live her life in moderation and comfort, and instead of extravagance, invested in her family and community. The last leading lady that I'd like to mention tonight is Deanne Reimer. She graduated from SMU in 1962 and started a career that same year at First National Bank of Dallas as a receptionist in the personnel department. In the 1960s, there were no female bank officers, no women of significant positions, and no women were allowed in the officers' dining room. She joined the American Banking Institute, took classes at night in finance and accounting. She became the director of the Dallas chapter of the American Institute of Banking and represented the chapter at the regional and national conferences. She was also a member of the Dallas Personnel Association and the American Institute of Training and Development and the Dallas Professional Business Women's Club. In 1970, she was the fourth woman employed by First National Bank to earn an officer's title, and she was named assistant vice president just 2 years later. She was selected by the bank to attend Southwestern Graduate School of Banking at SMU and became the first female student to graduate with a thesis of distinction. She was also married in 1973, started a family, and still kept her career going, retiring from Bank of America as senior vice president in 2010. Throughout her distinguished career, she received many honors and awards, including being named Woman of the Year by the American Banking Institute. So from this small sample of women, we can see a number of patterns: an ability to overcome obstacles, whether it's an economic depression, a death, an ability to focus on family life, an eye for style, instinctive skills for risk-taking and management, an ability to juggle a professional life with family life at home, a desire to promote and support other women along the way, a focus on education and growth, and an unparalleled dedication to improving their communities. These lasting legacies of these women will cement their place in history, and it is my hope that it will inspire others to do good, or, to use Abby Halliday's motto, to do something for someone every day. Thank you.
It's on? Yeah. Woo! This was great. And I feel kind of like a worm coming up here after hearing about these great women. I'm Christine Allison with D Magazine, and Dia generously gave me some prompts and questions to ask the women up here on stage. But I do want to tell you, when I moved here from New York in 1995, I came down here kicking and screaming. I had 4 daughters, and the last thing I wanted them to do was end up, I don't know, I just had visions of the stereotype of Texas, you know, and they start wearing dresses and wanting to make their hair look nice and all those things that as New Yorkers, we were just, it wasn't part of our shtick. And what happened, my husband promised me we'd be here 3 years, 1995 plus 3. We stayed here obviously much longer. But what happened is I discovered that there is nothing stronger than a Texas woman, and that all my stereotypes, everything I thought was just bunk. And part of it, I was thinking, when hearing about these women, is that there is this very social current that runs through everything we do here. Texas people are very social, much more social than people in the Northeast who would tend to more keep to themselves. And I think the fact that women learn manners at a young age, they know how to walk into any room and what to say and how to comport themselves, that in itself gives them a kind of confidence and just sturdiness that a lot of people who are in the Northeast, especially at the young age, are very self-conscious about themselves. And when we moved here, the high school girls were just like, you know, hello, it's so great to meet you. And I was bowled over because, you know, they're too cool for school up in New York. So it just looking at these slides made me realize that the greatest thing we did was bring our daughters down here to grow up in Texas. And they've certainly outpaced their New York friends with ease and grace and laughter and all those qualities that make life worth living. The one thing I wanted to note as I did a quick cramming for this evening was that women in Texas, despite their enormous strength, could not own property, make a loan without their husband's permission until 1967. So when Mary Kay started her business in '63, I'm sure she had to have her son sign. And Miss Cockrell, I'm sure her sons were involved in that too, but that woman is, I don't know why this isn't Cockrell, Texas. Like, what is Dallas? Just amazing, and just amazing that in that climate, when you had to get a permission slip from your husband, and that these women just were undeterred. And, I'm just kind of blown away. Additionally, women did not have the vote until I think it was 1919 here in Texas, and black women did not have it until the voting rights law passed in '65. So, it's against enormous odds that these women have accomplished what they have. So here, and we'll focus mainly on do you want to ask some questions? Hello? Yeah, there we go. What did, and do you know in your studies, Samantha, what did, if you know, Sarah Cockrell, did she use her femininity and the fact that she was a woman to her advantage in any overt way? Were you able to uncover kind of her methods?
Maybe. There we go. I don't know that it would be like an overt conscious decision where she's thinking about using it that way, but I think she just approached the business like she was working with families and acquaintances, because even when she was doing all of this work all over Dallas, she never had like an office building. She hauled a trunk around with her that kept receipts and papers that she was making dealings and loaning things or leasing things to people. So it was either doing it in her house or at a restaurant or at one of the hotels or something. So it wasn't like this big, like intimidating business thing, but like we're family, we're friends, what do you need, like what's happening kind of thing. So more familial in that kind of way was how she approached her business decisions. And the trunk is actually here at the Hall of State, and it's one of the artifacts there.
Oh, that's so
Sarah's
cool.
papers are here too as well. So.
I can guess the answer, but what about Mary Kay?
Well, she definitely leveraged her insights into what women want and how other women think. So even picking the pink color for the products, she knew at the time white decor was very popular, and she wanted something that would look attractive and stand out on the shelf. Things like recognition, jewelry and pins. She could have just given cash. That's what most companies do. But she said, you know, if women have cash, they'll probably buy something for the house. She was very intentional, thinking, I want this woman to have a physical symbol of her accomplishment because she deserves to be recognized. So she took her understanding of women and really leveraged that.
That's really amazing. Do y'all know Robin Penn-Wright, the actor? She was Jenny in Forrest Gump, and what was the name of the show with Kevin Spacey? House of Cards. She came through Dallas, and I interviewed her, and I said, you know, what's made you so bold and experimental all these years? And she said, Mary Kay. And I said, you know, if you saw House of Cards, Mary Kay? And she said, yes, my mother worked for Mary Kay, and she earned a pink Cadillac.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I mean, this is a woman who's trying to make ends meet, and her mom blossomed with Mary Kay, and she saw anything you set out to do, you can do.
For sure. She was actually our national sales director, which is the top level. And when you say that she worked for Mary Kay, actually her Mary Kay business worked for her, because everyone in Mary Kay is independent, but in this example, the Mary Kay business worked for her.
Amazing, just amazing. Do you know what Sarah?
No, I don't know much about their. I know when they first moved here, like I said, she had 6 brothers and sisters, and then I'm assuming the parents worked in some sort of either farming, because there wasn't a whole lot of Dallas at the time, but Sarah's job when she first moved here was just to take care of her brothers and sisters, so that was pretty much what women were doing at the time. It was church work, or we were taking care of your family. So that's all that she knew at the time. So she really stepped outside of that when she's running Dallas.
Incredible. What about Mary Kay?
Her mother was extremely influential in her life. When Mary Kay was growing up, really a little before the Depression, her father was very ill, really an invalid, so her mother had to go to work. So you imagine finding work at that time was even more challenging. And Mary Kay, as a little girl, maybe about 5, 6, 7, had to take care of the house and cook for her father. And her father might say, oh, I'd love some potato soup. And Mary Kay would say, Mom, I don't know, I can't cook. You can do it. I'll tell you how. You can do it. And it was that belief that her mother poured into her that gave her the confidence to try things, to be willing to fail forward to success. And she took that same principle and poured belief literally into hundreds and thousands of women. And that vocabulary, you can do it.
I love that. I was going to speak louder. The question here is, what were some of the biggest challenges in their fields? I wonder with Mary Kay, who were her chief competitors, and how did she distinguish herself and what she did from the competition?
I'm going to answer that the way I think she would have, and she wouldn't answer that question directly. She never really thought about or talked about competition, and that is a practice that we maintain. We stay very focused on who we are and the uniqueness and the strength of our culture that makes us different. We have amazing products. it's really the culture and the community that has been built and that has been maintained from one woman to another, passing it on. So that's how I would respond, because Mary Kay Ash stayed so focused on what she knew she needed to do and achieve that she probably she'd probably say, I don't even think about them or know what they're doing.
Wow, wow. And of course, Sarah Cockrell had
I would say her biggest challenge was just surviving life in Frontier Dallas at that time. And then again, you're trying to take care of your 4 children, manage a business, a hotel. She was doing all kinds of things all over the place and still contributing to the community. She helped set up the First United Methodist Church up here in Dallas. I believe there's a plaque outside the church that's dedicated to her. But again, with a lot of these ladies, for like Ebby or for Eloise, there was no one before them. So who are you role modeling after if no one's done it before? It's like, well, or Neiman Carey Marcus. She's like, I've never seen these clothes before, but I'm going to sell them in my department store, and I'm going to make Dallas the next New York or Paris. And who else was saying that before she came through? But after these women came forward, then hundreds of women are following in their footsteps afterwards. So they were just the firsts.
amazing. What effect? Well, let me ask a question I can yell. What myths, if any, do you think people have in their heads about Miss Cockrell?
Honestly, I think just people don't know about her, or they don't know exactly that, yes, you've heard the Cockrell name, but the person who actually did all of these things was the woman behind the man that everyone probably would know, Alex Cockrell. But it was Sarah who was building the bridge, who was setting up the hotels, who was contributing to the growth of Dallas and bringing in investors and connecting Dallas to all the roads south and San Antonio and the coast and Galveston. So it's just, I think, the lack of awareness of how important she was to establishing Dallas as this big city out here in the frontier.
Is there a Sarah Cockrell Day?
I don't know, but there needs to be.
Not yet.
It needs to be on a stamp or something. I mean, how about Mary Kay? Obviously, there's...
Yeah, with Mary Kay, and something that struck me when I first moved to Dallas and joined Mary Kay, people who had the privilege of meeting her and knowing her always had so many warm comments about how she took time for them, made them feel like she's the only, they were the only person in the room, how she would touch their hand gently in a conversation. And so there is a sweetness that was very genuine. At the same time, she was very straightforward, very direct, held people accountable, and she wasn't certainly a tyrant about it, but I think that balance, I'm not sure everyone who maybe saw her in some of the public moments would also expect that she was on top of everything and everybody.
There's
In a good way.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a question. Yeah.
I don't. I don't have any comments.
I say, we at the Archives of Women Southwest, we do have the Komen Foundation Archives, which is an incredible collection, obviously, for Susan G. Komen and her sister Nancy, who started that program. And then it has just blossomed all over the world. And so we have materials from the first race in Puerto Rico, and you're seeing how this foundation that she set up to help women and to raise awareness of cancer in women and treatments options and has just shaped how it's displayed all over the world. And we'll get researchers. I was actually working with a PhD student in Egypt who was studying the Komen Foundation and the first races that were running through Europe. So it is just such a global brand and name that people know and recognize. And again, you have the pink ribbon, so it's something iconic that she has created. With Lucy Billingsley, she's another example of women who give back to the community, who are big supporters of the arts, of educations, of the Women's Forum and foundations. And so it's something that you've seen across all these different women is that, yes, they had their businesses and their families, but they all were so active in giving back to the community, which then is helping to support the women around them.
And you know, in very different times, I think what struck me, you know, again, was that the odds against these women doing anything during their time were overwhelming. There are still odds to accomplishment, pay equity, a lot that we need to work on for women right now. But my daughters are entering a very different environment that I entered into. When I first started working in New York, you wore a skirt. No one wore pants to work. In fact, when I moved down here, kicking and screaming, I had an early speaking engagement at the Dallas Women's Club. Just lovely people. But they had just passed the rule that you could wear slacks to the club, and I have a picture of me with all the ladies, and I'm wearing a black turtleneck and black pants. I mean, I'm from New York, and that's my color still. And I got a lot of comments like, "Oh, you went ahead and wore some slacks today." So I'm not saying Lucy Billingsley had it easy, as you know, the young woman in a very powerful real estate family. She, you know, the dynamics among siblings one can't know or imagine, but it's these our elders who came before who really outwitted the obstacles, and their workarounds are astonishing to me. Now we have a few minutes before the Q&A, before I can open it up, or... Yeah, does anyone else have a question for our panelists? Yes.
I was wondering, is Cockrell, Texas, named for Sarah Cockrell? It's a community in southwest Dallas, a small community in Cockrell Hill Road, right?
If I'm going to assume it's based on just Cockrell family, Alex, and all of the other members, not necessarily her specifically. Yeah, I would say there were other members of the Cockrell family who were doing things, but Sarah, I don't think gets quite the recognition she deserves for as much as she did. But like I said, the only thing I know that's got Sarah's name on it is that plaque outside of First United Methodist Church in downtown Dallas. Yeah. I say for what collections that we have at SMU, we have a lot of African American journalists like Julia Scott Reed, and so we've got very few collections that we have, which is why I prefaced that this wasn't a representative sample. These are just some of the ones that I had, but there are definitely women like Anita Martinez, who has founded the Ballet Folklorico and has done all kinds of amazing work with children and with dance and with the arts, and again, huge community supporter for her area, and she's still alive. I think the last time I met her was right before the pandemic hit, and she's still, you know, striving and doing things within the community, and her programs that she started are still around and shaping future generations. Yes. Yes. So her son, I believe, is still running the restaurants and things. She actually lives, that's where I met her, was at his house. So again, tight-knit community, taking care of each other and then their families. But yes, it's a very accomplished family.
Do you have Juanita Craft?
We don't have materials, but I know the Juanita Craft House has its own little museum collection there. I believe the African American Museum here in Fair Park has some materials there, as well as the Dallas Public Library, I think, has some materials on Juanita Craft.
We publish a magazine called DCEO, and I'm not going to say his name, but a major Highland Park real estate owner took me to lunch and said, why don't you cover more about, you all used to do more society, more, Park Cities and Preston Hollow coverage. And I took an issue of DCEO and I said, come sit by me. And I started turning the pages. I'm like, do you know him? No. Do you know her? No. We have people of color. We have people of DCEO, even more than D Magazine, represents the real new Dallas. And it's extraordinary how international it is, how, I was saying to Sheryl, I was like, I know I've seen you somewhere. And it was at a DCEO event. The new Dallas is something that we're very intentional about reflecting back to the city because it's changing. But one has to be intentional in bringing that to the public eye. And my lunch partner, who was trying to get me to cover the Park Cities and Preston Hollow, was flabbergasted at the accomplishments that were profiled in this magazine that we produce. So more to come on that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You talked, there's other, which we haven't covered today, obviously, you can't cover them all, prominent women that came, like, really as a result of the divorce, raised their family, and founded their own companies, which were very, very successful. Do you think there's something about Dallas? I mean, Dallas is very entrepreneurial, but is this something that's unique to Dallas, or Dallas is very supportive of that type of a woman or anybody founding their own business?
I would say it might be something. Dallas is certainly, when it comes to women's rights, has set a bit of a bar there. I mean, we have people like Virginia Whitehill, and then we had Roe v. Wade, which is coming out of Dallas, and so we had, all of these women's groups that were very active politically on all kinds of issues, and so I think women who were coming here and either going through divorce still had these opportunities to build their business. Abby Halliday, I think, had been married like 3 times, was still running her business. I think Dallas just offered these opportunities and a community of women who would support you. If you were going through this, there was somebody who was either experiencing the same thing, so there were people you could lean on, and a strong community of women here in Dallas that I think helped cultivate that atmosphere that it would be okay to, you can be divorced and still have a business, or you can, talk about these issues in this city.
I would say, as a former New Yorker, for men and women, and this is reflected in the pages of DCEO, this community wants everyone to succeed. And it is astonishing to me how everyone wants to help each other, makes connections for each other. Like, compared to doing business in New York, which is just like looking over your shoulder at all times, this place, for men and women, for anyone, just reach out, ask for help, ask for contacts, ask for names. People will talk to you and help you, like no other city I've ever been in. One more question? Well, I'll just say, when I saw, we have a question, yay.
What comments do you have to give about women who played a huge role in making history, but were not directly the business owners themselves?
You're the expert. You study this stuff every day.
Oh, sorry. Repeat it one more time. So just repeat it one more time. Women in healthcare.
She was just asking about women that weren't the owners but partners.
Influential women who were not in charge of the business but played a huge role in the public relations and network.
There were a number of amazing women who weren't, the name or the brand, or had even professional careers. I mentioned Virginia Whitehill. She moved to Dallas with her husband, who came here for business, but women at the time, she's like, you can get involved with the Red Cross, you can fold bandages for the Army, and she's like, I don't want to fold bandage, I want to do more with, my life. And so she started getting involved in the women's reproductive rights movement and helped do educational programming on women's health, and started doing even more things that she's like, I want to make a real difference and not just, do some church work or volunteer work. And it's not necessarily a career that she was building or working with her husband, but she was still finding ways to make a significant change for women in the community. And a lot of the women that you'll see in the archives they're all connected either through the same types of groups, whether it's Junior League or the YWCA or the Women in Business Professionals groups or Dallas Summit Women's Forum. There were all these organizations that were built and run by women to promote women's education, to promote women's issues. So these weren't necessarily careers, but these are nonprofits that they're starting, or organizations where they're giving resources to women who needed them to either go back to school or to start their business education and go back to grad school or some things like that. So they're women running other initiatives to help other women go forward.
I think we were focusing on entrepreneurs today. That's why we didn't see politics and policy leaders and academics and the, wide scope of all the women who have contributed to this city. But the last point I'd like to make is, if you want to contribute to this city, if you want to build something, you're in the right place. And that's my final word.
Thank you. Thank you again for joining us this evening. I really had a wonderful time. I learned so much, and hopefully you did too. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you again and to present you lovely ladies with just a small token of appreciation for coming out to join us this evening. And if you could please give them a round of applause again. Oh, thank you. It's funny you should say that, because as you were presenting about Mary Kay, I was like, am I like Mary Kay? I think I'm like Mary Kay. I felt very connected to her. So yeah. So thank you again. Don't forget to join us next week, March 16th. We have our next program. If you're interested, make sure you register for that. It's going to be a really wonderful program all about non-traditional media publications from back in the day on up to probably around the 70s and 80s. So make sure you register for that. We're looking forward to it. And then later, end of this month or possibly early next month, which is why I didn't mention it, we also have our Alamo exhibit, the diorama, that's going to be opening up. So we're really excited about that. We've put a lot into it. Tom Feely was the artist who created the diorama, if you haven't seen the sneak peek that we had upstairs. And we also have an interactive educational app that's going to be opening up with it. So we're excited about that too. So you guys drive safely, and thank you again for joining us.